Welcome to Up to the Minute. I'm Todd Duplantis. It is Friday, hashtag finally Friday. Good to have you with us on the show. We're live at the HCCTV studios this morning. Whether or not the lights stay on, that'll remain to be seen. Did you see that? I know Benji just saw it. He's my director here this morning. But anyway, we'll see what happens. Anything can happen this morning. We're here for the next half hour, and we've got your HCC news and information. We'll also be meeting with one of our partners very shortly. But first off, we're going to check in with Frank Cooper, who's at the house, but he is on the show this morning. Frank, good to see you.
What's going on, boss man? How you doing?
I'm good. I'll be better if the lights can stay on while I'm doing the show. But you know how that goes, Frank.
You know, that might be my fault. Anytime I drive by downtown, there's a magnetic energy that I just shut down all the power lines and generators and stuff. So my bad.
I was thinking it was that, or were we putting the light bill on your P card? That might have been it as well. And we know you don't have one of those anymore. We don't want to get into that. But anyway, Frank, a lot of folks are watching us on Facebook Live and YouTube. We appreciate you joining us there. You can also watch us on HCCTV. The rebroadcast of the show is on now at noon, 5 and 10 p.m. for your viewing pleasure. And Frank, they can always catch us in social media too.
Absolutely. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, we are streaming live on Facebook District, ACC District, also YouTube Live. So if you just search Houston Community College Up to the Minute, you can hit the notification bell and watch all the latest episodes from Monday through Fridays, excluding holidays and spring break. So let's grow the show, guys.
All right, Frank, stick around. We'll talk a little sports maybe later.
Let's do it.
All right. You're going to be interviewing this next guest. We've got a special guest joining us from the University of Houston talking about a brand new partnership. We've got Dr. Teri Elkins Longacre joining us this morning. Good to see you. Well, if we can get you to unmute your mic, Dr. Longacre. There we go. Good to see you this morning.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, we're always in our partnerships with our partnering universities, and we're excited to hear about the GPS program. It's not GPS as in signal, you'd think. It's something a little bit different. So we're looking forward to talking with you in a few minutes.
Great. Thanks so much.
All right, we're going to kick things off. You know, it is Film Friday, and we've got a very special guest. I've known this guy for quite some time, and we'll tell the story on how it happened in just a few moments. But welcome to the show, John Feltch. He's an actor, director, and teacher joining us here in Houston. John, good to see you always.
You too, Todd, always.
So I was telling this story yesterday, but you remember it well. But years ago, you know, John, I think it was closer to maybe almost 26, 27 years ago. I was working for a TV station, a small TV station in Houston, and I was doing a story on A Christmas Carol. And I went down to the Alley Theater, and you were gracious enough to do the story with me. I went backstage. You were getting ready. I think during that time you were playing Marley for The Christmas Carol. Was that right?
That's correct, yes.
And you played several roles, didn't you?
Yeah, I played Marley and also the world's ugliest woman. I played Mrs. Dilber, Scrooge's maid, which I did for years, and that was super fun.
And I think people don't understand, but you were an actor with the Alley for a while, but during productions, big productions that are annual ones like The Christmas Carol, you guys would rotate roles and expand out and play different roles. Was that quite common?
That's correct. Well, you know, given that we did it every year and, multiple shows a week, I mean, the normal play back in those days, we had 8 shows a week, which is a lot. But when we did Christmas Carol, it would sometimes be 11 or 12 shows a week because, you know, schools and families, and it became, you know, it was a hugely popular event. So, yeah, we would switch out roles. We would, you know, so we didn't burn out completely on doing the same thing over and over.
Did you enjoy playing different roles in the same production, just getting to expand into different roles?
Very much so. Yeah, very much so. And I think I can speak for the others. I mean, it was especially fun to play something that you might not normally play, or something that they would, you know, not principally cast you for, but over time they'd say, well, why don't you try Bob Cratchit, and why don't you try, you know what I mean? And you're the ghost of Christmas Past. So it was fun. It was fun to mix it up. Of course, the poor costume shop had to keep changing the costumes, but you know.
If I remember right, you were doing your own makeup too that night. Was that right? Normal practice?
Yeah, it was. And, you know, I think they still do for their production. It used to be quite elaborate because I'd have to get out of the maid costume, get into the Marley costume, including the chains. Yeah. And the white and the makeup. And, you know, it had to be done in a kind of extremely fast way. So you get very good at the shorthand, like, okay, throw that on. And it was a workout.
I know people may know you no longer work with the Alley, but you're a teacher now. You're a director, and I know you still do a lot of acting. It seemed like was it over the last year or so that you went off to, was it Maine, and did a role up there?
I did up in the Cape Cod. Yep, up in Massachusetts. That summer before COVID, the fall. Yeah, into the fall, and that was one of the most amazing gigs I've ever had. I was right by the ocean in Cape Cod. Yep. It was beautiful. And that was a play about Laurence Olivier, the great British actor. Yeah. And I played him. And it was his collaboration with Orson Welles. So that was super fun to do.
You know, I want to ask you about that because this is one of the questions I had for you. You know, Will Smith just won an Oscar. We're going to leave out the whole slap incident. We don't need to address that. We'll leave all that. But he just won an Oscar for portraying King Richard Williams. Yeah. And when you did Sir Laurence Olivier, here's my take. You know, my wife and I went back and forth on this a couple of months ago, but I've said, in my eyes, you know, when you're playing a living person, it gives you somewhat of an advantage because you can watch their work, you can see them, and you can emulate them. And she said, well, I think that would be a lot harder to do, to imitate that person to the T. What's your take on that? Is it easier to portray somebody who you have a body of work to actually watch on video as opposed to interpreting a character in your own way?
Right. No, you're right. It's a really good question. I think it depends on the material itself, but also, I mean, I have to say that the best advice I ever got as a young man, younger actor, when I first played Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird. Now, he's a fictional character, but everyone of a certain age associates that role with Gregory Peck. Yeah. And this, I was very, very anxious, you know. It would be like playing Stanley Kowalski in Streetcar. I mean, everyone thinks of Marlon Brando. Yeah. There's just no way you're not going to, you know. So the only way to deal with that, or playing a real person, I'm not a great mimic myself. So I have to approach it from a standpoint of what am I bringing to the role, and in terms of my experience. I don't, you know, I can certainly recreate a sound or an accent and some mannerisms, of course. Yeah, physicality. I would study that and incorporate it like I did playing Olivier. But really, end of the day, you got to bring yourself to it, because honestly, people are watching a play. In the first few minutes, they may have like a kind of weird disconnect, like, oh, he doesn't look like that person or sound like that person. But if you're doing your job well, after a couple of minutes, they completely forget that. Do you know?
Yeah, let's talk about COVID. I know you teach acting as well. How did you deal with that? Were you able to work with students online? Did you find work online? What did it look like during the whole COVID
I mean, it was very tricky. I won't lie. It was extremely difficult. Not only not to have theater, and I mean, especially rehearsal, which has been my whole life. I lived for being in rehearsal rooms. It's interesting, like a lot of people who do creative stuff for a living. I mean, for me, the process and the collaboration is everything. And I'm not as much about the actual, you know, production, although I, of of course, adore it. But missing that and then it was super hard with my students. Yeah, I did a bunch of Zoom stuff, but of course, especially with a live art like acting, it's just tremendously difficult to get the kind of connection you need to have in order to learn and teach. So I'm so blessed because we're back, reemerging now, and I have students and I'm loving it. I'm loving being in the room with them again. It's been hard.
What advice, you've been through COVID, you've been, I know struggles in acting, struggles through life. What advice would you give our students who may want to get into film or the theater?
Yeah, well, it's a whole new world. I feel a bit like a dinosaur in the respect that when I was coming up, and then certainly when I was teaching in my earlier days, I would have urged young actors to get as much hands-on training, and I still do, but it's a different world. I have two of my better former students up in New York, and they go to great acting studios to do their work. They're not taking the academic route, and things have changed. I would say, first of all, always have a backup job. For me, it was proofreading and editing books, and I still do that too, and teaching. But, it's a very, as you know, Todd, it's a very, it's a business where you never know what's coming next.
Yeah.
And, it's feast or famine. And,
yes.
But I would definitely say seek out training with someone who is, really experienced and who has a good reputation. And, take it from there. You no longer have to go, you can go to an acting training program and through your college or a university. But now with content everywhere and people making, TV and film with their phones, it's a whole new world.
It's an exciting world that we're living in and a lot of new things to learn. John, it's always good to see you. I hope to see you soon.
Yes, I hope so too.
All right. You take care of yourself, John.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're going to put your information in our social media post after the show. Thanks for being our Film Friday guest.
Todd.
All right.
See everybody.
Take care. We're going to turn things over to Frank Cooper. Frank, you've got a special guest. Excited, I'm a U of H grad. I'm always excited to hear about our partners over there. And they've got a new program they're going to tell you about, a new initiative.
Absolutely, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Dr. Teri Elkins. And I'm sorry if I butchered this. Longacre? Longacre. Thank you. Vice Provost and Dean of Undergraduate Student Success of the University of Houston. How you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing great, doctor. Doing great, doctor. So,
Teri, call me Teri, please.
Teri, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So let's begin about you telling us exactly what the Houston Gilded Pathways of Success GPS initiative is, and what should the HCC community know about it?
Sure. So Houston Guided Pathways to Success, or we just call it Houston GPS, is a collaboration of 13 4- and 2-year institutions in the greater Houston area. And HCC and the University of Houston are part of that partnership. We actually started Houston GPS around 2015. We started at 7 institutions and we've grown to 13. And as a collaborative, the institutions who participate have agreed to put evidence-based strategies in place to address low completion rates for our students in the greater Houston area. So we did this, or we're doing it, by starting to look at data back in 2015 to identify really, why were students in the Houston area not graduating? What barriers were they facing? And we learned a lot of helpful information. So students were taking too long to graduate. They were taking credits that they didn't need, accumulating excess credits, taking classes at a community college that didn't apply to the majors that they were interested in at the 4-year institutions. They weren't passing or completing math and English gateway courses in their first year. So we very intentionally selected some best practices to put in place at all of our institutions to address those particular barriers.
Teri, why is it so important that colleges like HCC partner with institutions such as U of H and this initiative? I mean, ultimately, we our students gain from Houston GPS.
Right. So one of the key goals of Houston GPS is to make the transfer process for students who wish to go from a 2-year to a 4-year institution to get a bachelor's degree after completing their 2-year degree. We want to make that process seamless. We want students who start at HCC, for example, to know from day one if they're interested in pursuing a business degree, a BBA, after they complete their 2-year degree. We want them to know from day one, what courses do I take at HCC that will transfer and apply to the business degree at UH or any of the other 4-year partners. So we really want to help students have an efficient and seamless pathway from HCC to UH so that they can complete their degrees on time. In 4 years is the goal, without taking unnecessary classes, so that they can save time, save money, get into their careers faster, go to graduate school faster, and become part of the workforce in the greater Houston area.
What other tools are currently available that effectively route HCC students to bachelor degrees from U of H?
So we have some really great newer technology. At UH, it's called the Transfer Credit Estimator. And this is available to prospective students at HCC, to advisors, to families. It's no charge. And so students at HCC could use this technology. It's on the UH website. To look at courses that they've taken at HCC and to see how specifically they apply to every major at the university, so that they could see, what's the best major for me to apply to at the university so that I could use my credits without them not applying. It could also be used as a planning tool. So a student who's at HCC who thinks they want to go into business or psychology or engineering, they can, when they're planning their courses for the fall, for example, fall enrollment's coming up, they can use the Transfer Credit Estimator to look at the courses they're thinking about taking at HCC and how do those apply to my majors of interest at the University of Houston. So that's one of our newer tools that's available to any HCC student. The other is advisors. So HCC advisors at UH, we have a transfer advising program. And advisors are one of, I think, the most important resources for students to talk through these things about majors that they may want to go into, how can they best prepare, what courses should they take. So those are the two most important tools, I think.
Teri, I know for students coming up, especially in lower socioeconomic areas, funding is a big thing to pay for colleges, grants, scholarships. Tell me about some of the initiatives that Houston GPS has gotten. I know the Equity Walk initiative is a big thing with you guys.
So for the Equity Walk, that's the newest part of Houston GPS. 10 of our 13 participating institutions, including UH and NHCC, are working together ultimately to reduce achievement gaps in degree completion, to ensure that all of the students in the greater Houston area and across our institutions, we have the potential to serve close to 300,000 students. And so the goal is by working very intentionally through some of the components of the Equity Walk to eliminate equity gaps in college completion in the Houston area over the next 10 years. So some of the things that we've been doing over the last year as part of the Equity Walk include forming equity teams at each of our institutions. These teams have conducted equity assessments of programs, policies, practices at our institutions, assessed those. We've conducted climate surveys. And right now we are working with the USC Race and Equity Center that has delivered training to our teams on a variety of equity-focused topics. And we're working with them to develop what we're calling strategic equity projects at each of our institutions that are really aimed at addressing some of the causes of the equity gaps that we've uncovered in the last year. So that's some of the exciting work we're doing with the Equity Walk.
And finally, Teri, why is this particularly important to area institutions and students in Houston?
So as I mentioned, across Houston GPS, we serve close to 300,000 students, and it's a very diverse population. And we want to make sure that all students within this population have an opportunity to complete a college degree. So of these nearly 300,000 students, we have 50,000 are African-American students, around 90,000 are Hispanic students, 800,000 are Pell eligible students, demonstrating financial need. And all of our institutions are designated as minority serving. So it's very important in serving the population of students and potential students in the Houston area, again, that we ensure that all of our students have an opportunity to complete their degrees in a timely manner and an efficient manner, saving money and doing so efficiently so that they can enter the workforce.
Dr. Teri Elkins Longacre, thank you so much for this initiative. I'm so proud of this initiative. You're giving people opportunity to further give themselves a future. And as a African American, that I think that's extremely wonderful that Black and brown students are having an opportunity to, make a career themselves and have a bright future for themselves. So, Dr. Teri Elkins Longacre, Vice Provost and Dean Undergraduate Student Success for the University of Houston. We have registration on info right after the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It was great talking to you.
Thank you both. All right, Frank, we've got a few announcements we're going to go through. We're going to move through a few of these real quickly. The Student Success Summit, try saying that fast. Achieving the Dream site visit is happening. Join HCC and the West Houston Institute for a Student Success Summit called Personalized Learning Pathways. 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. next week from Wednesday, April the 13th. Confirm your attendance by registering on the link we'll post after the show. And Frank, one thing to keep in mind for our students, HERF funding is about to end.
Today's finally the day, the deadline for eligible students to request HERF 3 funds. Students who have not requested the funds still have time to take advantage of this emergency aid. The deadline to complete it is today, April 1st. Funds distributed to the week of April 6th. You'll have the posts and our information after the show.
Okay, spring transfer fairs. The spring 2022 transfer fairs begin in April. That's right, this month. See the schedule on the district's Facebook page to find out which fairs are back on campus, in person, or virtual. After the original postponement back in February, they're ready to have them now. It's going to be on with it. Spring transfer fairs, they open April the 4th. And there's a math summit getting ready to happen, Frank. It happens a week from tomorrow.
The All-Faculty Summit with guest speakers and groundbreaking content is scheduled for 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. tomorrow. Next week, April 9th. Next week is virtual and it'll be on Teams.
Okay, Parallel Live, Stanley Kaminsky, the solo works of Professor Stanley Kaminsky will be featured at HCC's Northwest Spring Branch Gallery. It's going to be at the Spring 2022 exhibition. The event, of course, is free. It runs through April the 9th. We'll have some information on that after the post. Let's see, we're already registering for the summer. Okay, that's underway. Register now for the summer. Fall 2022. Registration is going to start very soon, Frank, but there are 3 dates you need to remember.
Exactly. April 11th, everyone can check out the schedule. That's when it will be released. April 18th, priority registration for vets and Eagle Promise program members. April 25th, everyone can register. So get ready. Online anytime, online on the schedule, hybrid. We have so many different modalities for you to check out. And let's get signed up, guys and gals.
Go to hccs.edu/apply for all your registration needs. Okay, Frank, week of sports, a lot of things going on. Of course, have you and I talked since Deshaun Watson parted ways with the Texans? I don't think we have we?
We briefly spoke about the possible signings, but we didn't talk about the actual signing to Cleveland. So
Yeah, because it was during spring break when it all happened. Mm-hmm. But that I for a while there, he kept saying, "Who am I going to go to?" It was like a LeBron James moment, picking which team. I thought he was going to make a national announcement on like ABC or something. But for a while, I was thinking, "Hey, the Saints could happen. It could happen." They looked like a good possibility for Deshaun.
Yeah, I feel like the Saints with so much of their cap issues and now Sean Payton leaving, there was a glaring hole at the head coaching spot. I think Dennis Allen would do a great job there, but I think Deshaun wants an offensive minded coach. He wants to be able to flourish offensively in a system. And Stefanski, look what he did the last 2 years. Last year with Baker Mayfield. The guy had torn labrum, and they still was relevant. So now you plug in an elite quarterback. Yeah, he hasn't played in a year and a half, but we all know the skill set's there. You add Amari Cooper. They might add a couple more weapons in the draft. So the AFC is gonna be a landmine of quarterbacks, man. It's gonna be tough.
It will be, but I'm going to make a bold prediction here.
Please, come on.
I'm going to make a bold prediction. I'm going to say the Texans are going to have a better winning record than the Browns. And when the Browns come play the Texans, I'm going to pick the Texans to win.
See, guys, don't let Todd fool you. Todd works in media. He has friends in the NFL. We probably know that Sean's probably going to get suspended for about 9 to 10 to 12 games. So don't let Todd's ability to get sources information out there. Come on, man. Come on. I wasn't born last night, Todd. Come on now.
Hey, why not? Why not go for it? We don't, you don't know what's going to happen. Heck, Deshaun Watson may not be playing, but maybe a third of the season or half the season. We don't know yet.
Tom Brady got 4 games. Tom Brady got 4 games for deflating a football. You don't think he'll get at least 10?
We'll see what happens. It's still a long ways away. And the Houston Cougars, they had a wonderful season. Came to an end, unfortunately, last week in the Elite Eight. Next year, they're going to be loaded up again. And I really think next year is going to be a great year for them.
I'll tell you what, man. If you're the Big 12, do you want that smoke? They're dominating. They're dominating their division as it is, a conference. They've made a Sweet 16 couple years. They made a Final Four a couple years ago. They're gonna bring smoke to Baylor, Texas Tech, Kansas. Get ready, Big 12. It's gonna be on and popping.
It's going to be exciting to watch. Boy, Kelvin Sampson's doing an incredible job there. Frank, it's always good to see you. Next week, we've got Mental Health Monday. Dr. Sean Fitzpatrick of the Hume Center of Houston will be here. And it's Music Monday too, Frank.
It sure is. And we'll feature one of HCC's own, David T. White, Director of Instrumental Ensembles and Professor of Trombone, Euphonium?
I think so. And the tuba, too.
Yeah, and the tuba. So can't wait to check that out.
All right, Frank, good to see you. We'll hopefully see you again next week. One way or another, I'll see you all Monday morning live, 10 a.m. right here for Up to the Minute.